Let's get some more opinions. Jason La Canfora, CBS Sports NFL. I think the spread is 5, by the way. CBS Sports NFL Insider. You see him on the NFL Today. You see him on Tops with us on Sunday, every Friday here on Tiki and Tierney. Not a Star Wars fan, and we understand, Jason. Can you please explain yourself?
Oh, I just never really got into it. I mean, as a kid, I remember going to the movies and thinking, why the hell are these lines so big? Like, what is this? What is this really going to change my life?
Jeez.
I mean, I had some of the toys.
You must have been a fun kid.
With my cousins, but just was never really my thing. Like Star Trek, I never really got into any of that.
Nah, Star Trek stinks. How old are you, Jay?
Sci-fi, I never really got into. I'm 41.
Yeah, so we're the same age. That is utterly perplexing.
Now BT cannot be your friend, Jason.
But he's a colleague.
Sorry.
There's a difference. I don't have to be friendly with, but I do have to be professional with Jason. So that's my out. That's the small print.
Nice.
Jay, you heard us talking about it a little bit, and want to get to some of the relocation issues, which was front and center last night with St. Louis. I don't know if you just heard my take on the Panthers and the Giants game. I know a lot of people are positioning the Giants as a team that can beat Carolina. And listen, it's the NFL. Anything can happen. And given their history, I think it emboldens some to say that. I don't see it happening. I think the Panthers come in, and I think they punch them in the chin, and I think the Giants go down pretty easily.
Yeah, I mean, look, I have as much as the Giants are in that race, I just have a hard time watching them play week in and week out and really them engendering any belief in me that they could beat a good team when they have to. Now, maybe they will, but they're so one-dimensional. I mean, their best bet for success, to me, is literally playing a little more up-tempo, trying to snap the ball. I mean, they're never going to go totally hurry up with Eli, but trying to snap the ball with 20-ish, 15 seconds still on the clock, going shotgun, spreading people out, and throwing it 50 times. Like, they can't really run the ball. They can't run when they have to run, and they can't sack anybody. So they can't close games. So it's almost like you just have to keep scoring. That's hard to do when you're playing, arguably the best defense in the league, who have difference makers at every single level of the offense. Of their defense. I just don't think they can run the ball on Carolina. And if you're throwing it 50 times, Norman's going to get his hand on the ball. Kuechly's going to knock your quarterback over a few times. Starlo Tulele is going to collapse the pocket. Like, there's just it's a tough equation, and it gets increasingly difficult again as you start playing good teams into late December and January.
Yeah, it's the other thing that's interesting in this game, Jason, is the fact that does Carolina need to win this game? I mean, because we know that they got some injuries. They may sit. No, I think they are sitting their running back,
Stewart,
Jonathan Stewart. So, I mean, are they going all out to go 16-0, or should they play for the playoffs?
Yeah, Ron Rivera does not strike me as much as he's Riverboat Ron, or as I call him, Armada Ron, because he's willing to be pretty out there at times.
Yeah.
But not here, not now. He's been through this with the '85 Bears. He's been around football his whole life. His eyes are on the prize, which is a Lombardi Trophy. No one's going to sit there and say, "Oh, well, they were an 18-1, though. What a great team!" It's about were you the champions or not. Greg Olsen got dinged up last week. He'll probably play this week, but I don't know that he plays all 4 quarters. Yeah, look, he's going to try to win this game and what have you. But if game situations dictate, either that a guy's getting hit too much, or we're winning by a ton, or we're losing by a ton, or whatever. Then he's not averse to pulling a guy here or there. I tend to think that probably comes in. They haven't officially wrapped up the 1 seed yet, right? They'll do that this week in all likelihood.
Mm-hmm.
16 and 17, those 2 weeks will be very interesting for them. I think they have Tampa in 16. The bottom line is they could probably play at 50% and win these next 2 games, and then they're playing Atlanta in Week 17. It's not a competitive balance game because Atlanta will have been eliminated by then.
Yep.
How does he play Week 17? I think he may play it like a preseason game.
That's interesting. Relocation issue. We seem to go back and forth on this. Not that we feel overly confident with these predictions, but Tiki's rolling when it's all said and done. He thinks it's going to be the Rams and the Raiders. I think it's going to be San Diego and the Raiders. What do you think?
I think it'll be the Rams and Chargers in 2017.
Wow, look at this guy.
I think they'll wow. on 2016. That's what they want, and they're literally running out of time for this year. And then you compound it with St. Louis, maybe only being $100 million away from really being able to put something out there that the league wouldn't be able to scoff at. I think that they, PR-wise, punt for a year. They couch it as we're giving these home markets, 10 more months to get their stuff together, and really behind closed doors, they start trying to build a bridge between Dean Spanos and Stan Kroenke, and right now it's a landfill. But maybe by October in the fall league meeting, they've coerced those two into a deal that they could live with.
Yeah,
and then you go to the Raiders and say, Mark Davis, here are your options. They're building this thing in St. Louis. You can go there, or you could sell your team, or you could keep playing in a stadium that has, sewage pouring up from, the gutters. It's up to you.
Yeah, how dire is the situation in Oakland? Obviously, we know about the stadium, but there's been lots of stories about the finances of Mark Davis and him looking to sell pieces of the team,
Yeah,
et cetera.
he's brought in some partners. He's been looking to continue to bring in partners. Obviously, this Bob Iger deal with the Disney CEO taking over as chairman of that Carson project, that was done in large part to try to buttress Mark Davis, to try to let the rest of the league know, hey, Iger's going to make sure this thing is done in a first-class way. But even that may not be enough. They would like to have the foothold of two teams in the Bay Area, but the economics make it – that Santa Clara Stadium being built, a lot of these other sites, are 35 to 60 miles away from it. It's hard to imagine, two stadiums being built that close together when there's – Oakland's education system is what it is, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know that there's public funding there.
There's not.
And look, there could still be a movement. If you punt for a year, that also gives you 9 months to try to force Mark Davis and the Yorks together as well and try to figure out maybe to make Santa Clara two states.
Wow. You just, and I know the way the stadium was built, it's plausible in terms of logistics. You just get the sense that Mark Davis doesn't want that. I feel like
Mark Davis wants L.A., but we don't always all get what we want.
No, that's true. And maybe I'm wrong here, Jay.
Have a voice in this one, unfortunately, for Mark Davis, and he's only one of those 32.
That's fair. I could be off on this, but I feel like the rhetoric before I left San Francisco was that the Niners were far more amenable to sharing the stadium than the Raiders were.
Yeah, well, the real sort of rub is Al was more open to it than Mark is, which most people would find sort of counterintuitive.
Yeah.
You just figured, Al is this iconic trailblazer, and he's only going to do his own thing, and who the hell is Mark, and the team just fell in his lap. But everything I've heard is that Al was actually more into exploring it just because he knew that they were running out of options, right there in Alameda County, whereas Mark has it's been almost like a non-starter for him. But again, he's running out of time and options too.
Talking to Jason La Canfora with us here on Tiki and Tierney, CBS Sports Radio. Jason, of course, CBS Sports NFL Insider, and the season is getting interesting.
Yeah, it is, and there's a big game on Sunday, the one of the late games, 4 o'clock games, that is, Denver and Pittsburgh. It's obviously a huge game for the Steelers to keep form or stay on pace with the Jets with the tied record. But Denver, on the other side of this, with Brock at quarterback and Peyton now kind of waiting in the wings, where do we see this Denver team advancing to? Because it seems like they could even lose the division.
Yeah, Denver and Cincinnati, haven't really, until they get that asterisk next to them there in the standings, there are going to be some questions. The one thing that Osweiler has not done that the other guy did is turn the ball over.
Yeah.
And that's why, look, they're not scoring a lot of points. Things are bogged down in the red zone. He also had, 5 or 6 just ridiculous drops last week, and they couldn't, third and short, they could not run the ball. Now, C.J. Anderson's back. They get their power back. Maybe that helps because the 3 games prior, I think they were over 150 per game as a team rushing, which they only accomplished once in 10 games under Manning. That's going to continue to give Kubiak pause for going back to the older guy. He likes having a quarterback under center. He likes being able to call those boot plays, move the pocket around and not have to worry about the guy getting killed. He likes to have that backside action in the run game. Off of that. That wasn't there with Peyton in the pistol or the shotgun. So I don't know that he wants to completely reverse course. And the last time Peyton was out there, it was pretty ugly. So this is still Osweiler's job to lose. It always has been. Excuse me. And obviously, what happened in Oakland isn't enough to swing the pendulum. Peyton's also going to have to show them that not just that, I'm healthy for a 40-year-old guy, but I'm healthy. I could take every snap in practice all week. You know what I mean? And I don't need a veteran's day off.
Yeah.
And I don't need an extra maintenance day. And it's not mental reps on Thursday and Friday. We're practicing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that hasn't been there in a while.
That's a big difference. There's no doubt. I know a couple of guys are banged up. Justin Houston's not going to play. Edelman is still a little bit banged up as well. Ware's been a little hobbled the past, actually all year for the most part. Give us a couple of injury big names that are 50-50 to play, or if you actually have any news in terms of some big players playing or not playing on Sunday.
Yeah, none of those guys that I know Houston and Edelman are not playing, I'm told. The goal is still for both those teams to have them back in the postseason. I wouldn't get too excited about Edelman practicing. I mean, and it's a good thing, but I think some people see he's practiced, 3-4 days in a row, and they're like, oh, he's going to be a game-time decision, whatever. He's probably I don't even know that he's going to play next week, but they feel very good about the trajectory that he's on. Justin Houston, they have their fingers crossed they could get him back, by the playoffs. Who else did you mention?
What about Ware? I mean, it seems like every other week he's dealing with something.
This back thing is going to bother. I mean, it's clear that this is going to be something that they've reached a point where he's trying to play through it, but he hasn't been the same since about week 5 and 6. And if you recall, this happened last year as well. He came out of the chutes blazing for 5 or 6 weeks, and I'm just saying, well, let's see about December because he's got a lot of wear and tear on him, and so I think he probably becomes a situational guy who they hope can do some things on third down, but. I don't think you're going to see him, being able to play three, down in, down out, first down, second down, third down. Andrew Luck, they feel very good about him being able to play next week. Hasselbeck, it's not going to be pretty this weekend, but they still prefer where he is physically to whatever they think the upside is with Charlie Whitehurst. So they're really trying to coax one more game out of Hasselbeck's body, which obviously he seems to be breaking down a little bit and certainly slowing down, which, again, I mean, that's what happens. I mean, he's 40 years old. He's taking a lot of hits. Yeah.
All right, there is Jason La Canfora.
Appreciate you, Jason.
Yeah, good stuff, Jay. Appreciate it, man.